Welcome to the Department of Education Preschool Learning Kit lessons. The purpose of these lessons is to expose you and your child to literacy, math, STEM, and social emotional activities that will add to their success in kindergarten. You are your child's first and best teacher, and the Department of Education's Migrant Program is here to support you in that role. We are providing your child with a backpack that contains books and materials to complete all of the lessons. I will now demonstrate the lesson on Giraffes Can't Dance. The literacy lesson on Giraffes Can't Dance is about storytelling and the order of events. The child will retell a story by stating the importance of the story parts in the right order. The suggested book is Giraffes Can't Dance, and the materials needed are glue, construction paper, scissors, today we are going to read a story about a giraffe. The name of the book is Giraffes Can't Dance. Gerald was a tall giraffe whose neck was long and slim, but his knees were totally crooked and his legs were rather thin. He was very good at standing still and munching shoots off trees. But when he tried to run around, he buckled at the knees. Every year in Africa, they hold a jungle dance where every single animal turns up to skip and dance. Where's the story taking place? Is the story in the city? Is the story in a school? You're right, the story looks like it's taking place in the jungle. Let's see what happens next. It says jungle dance. And this year, when the day arrived, poor Gerald felt so sad because when it came to dancing, he was really bad. The lion danced a tango, but that was elegant and bold. The warthog started waltzing, and the rhinos rocked and rolled. The chimps did a cha-cha with a very Latin feel. And 8 baboons then teamed up for a splendid Scottish reel. Gerald swallowed bravely as he walked towards the floor, but the lion saw him coming and they soon began to roar. Who's the characters in the book? You're right, there's a giraffe. What other characters in the book? Lions. Good. Is there another character that you can name in the book? Look at the pictures and tell me. Monkeys. You're right. There's other monkeys in the book. Is there a problem? Is there a problem with Gerald? What's Gerald's problem? The problem is that he can't dance. Let's see what happens. Hey, look at clumsy Gerald, the animals all sneered. Giraffes can't dance, you silly fool. Oh, Gerald, you're so weird. Gerald simply froze up. He was rooted to the spot. You're right, he thought. I'm useless. I feel like such a clot. So he crept off the dance floor and he started walking home. He'd never felt so sad before, so sad and so alone. Look at him. Look how sad he looks. Then he found a little clearing and he looked up at the sky. The moon can be so beautiful, he whispered with a sigh. Excuse me, coughed a cricket, who'd seen Gerald earlier on. But sometimes when you're different, you just need a little song. Do you think that's true? Do you think if you're different, maybe you need to change something a little bit? Let's see what Gerald does. Listen to the swaying grass and listen to the trees. To me, the sweetest music is those branches in the breeze. Wow, Cricket's being a good friend, telling him what to do. So imagine that the lonely moon is playing just for you. Everything makes music if you really want it to. With that, the cricket smiled and picked up his violin. Then Gerald felt his body do the most amazing thing. Look at Gerald. His hooves had started shuffling, making circles on the ground. His neck was gently swaying, and his tail was swishing around. He's feeling amazing. He threw his arms out sideways, and he swung them everywhere. Then he did a backward somersault, and he leapt up in the air. Gerald felt so wonderful. His mouth was wide open. I'm dancing. Yes, I'm dancing. I'm dancing, Gerald cried. Then one by one, each animal who'd been there at the dance arrived while Gerald boogied and watched him quite entranced. They're all watching Gerald do his dance. They shouted, "It's a miracle! He must be in a dream. Gerald's the best dancer that we've ever seen." How did you learn to dance like that? Please, Gerald, tell us how. But Gerald simply trolled around and finished with a bow. Then he raised his head and looked up at the moon and stars above. We can all dance, he said, when we find music that we love. What was Gerald's problem? You're right, he didn't know how to dance. Was the problem solved? Right. That was a really great story. What happened at the beginning of the story? Gerald went to a party and he couldn't dance. You're right. Okay, what happened next? You're right. He left. He was so sad. What happened at the end? You're right. He met a friend, the cricket, and the cricket told him to just listen to the music. And Gerald listened to the music, and what happened? He started to dance. Was the problem solved? Yeah, because Gerald learned how to dance. Okay, now we're going to make a giraffe puppet. And after we make the giraffe puppet, you are going to tell me the story. I'm going to show you some puppets that my grandson made about the giraffe. But for your puppets, you can also use shapes if you wanted to. I'm going to give you all of the stuff to make a puppet. I'm going to be here and I'm going to help you if you need help. When you're finished with a puppet, I want you to tell me the story. I want you to tell me the beginning of the story. I want you to tell me what happened in the middle of the story, what happened at the end of the story, but make sure that you tell me all the important parts of the giraffe. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to tell you the beginning of the story. This is Gerald. And Gerald is going to a party. Every day, every year they have this party, and everyone's dancing at the party. But Gerald doesn't know how to dance, and everyone's laughing at him. And he feels really bad, and so Gerald goes away. And he's walking, and he's looking up at the moon, and he hears somebody talking to him. And somebody says to him, "You can dance if you listen to the music." And Gerald thought really, really hard. And he started to listen to the music. And he started to sway and move his feet and move his hands. And he began to dance. And then all the other friends were coming back from the dance, and they noticed that Gerald was dancing. And they all stood up and they watched him dance. Like, "Oh, Gerald, what happened? You learned how to dance." And Gerald danced and danced and danced. And he said, "Yeah, if you listen to your own music, you can dance." And that was the end of the story. So that was Giraffes Can Dance, and that was the literacy lesson.